All right, so today is an experiment day. I had this idea for cutting siding. Now, Woodland Mills sells a siding attachment. I don't have that. And I have a log. I didn't want to use a good log for this, but I have a log that I didn't get the bark off in time. It's got a lot of bugs. It's got a lot of softwood in it. So I think it's a great time to use it as a test log. The idea is to take where it sits on the log bunks, to take and put some sort of a shim or spacer underneath it. I've got a square log now, a canted log, and the idea is to angle it like this and then make a pass through it and then drop it back flat again and make the next pass and square it back off again and then jack it up again and keep doing that back and forth until I think it will make tapered pieces or tapered siding. So I'm going to try it today, and I'm going to be real honest because I overthink everything. I tried to draw out and figure out if there was something I wasn't thinking about. What would be the drop? What lip would I want to put on this edge here? What's the face height here? How do I figure all that stuff out? I feel like I'm probably overthinking it, overanalyzing it. So to avoid some analysis paralysis, I thought I'd throw a log on and let's just wing it and see what happens. So that's what we're going to work on today. And so I guess now you can decide, is this going to work out or is this going to fail? We'll find out together. Let's go. And here's our test subject. By way of the log scale, looks like it's going to be about an 8-inch profile this way. And I think so that would come out to be about 8.5 inches by way of a ruler by almost 9 inches wide. So we've got about an 8x9 cant here. This is going to be our test subject, so we should get siding pieces that have about a 9-inch face to it. I think it's going to be 9-inch face. So we're going to take this side here, where this log bunk is. I'm going to jack it up with this double 2x4 I have behind me. I'm going to slide underneath it first to start a 1-inch spacing block. 1 inch mostly because that's what all my stickers are. So I'm just going to stick a sticker underneath this part of the log and jack it up, and I think it'll push pretty well against the log stops. I've got them fairly high, so I think it'll be okay. It won't be a perfect square to the log stops, but I think it'll give me we'll start with about a 1-inch angle on this and see how that looks. I think what I'm mostly looking for is the taper, so if we can get that taper, I'll be pretty happy. The idea there is that your siding can lay or lap over itself. And I think that's going to give it a small enough bottom lip, but we'll see. We'll play with those dimensions and see how it works out. So I put a 1-inch spacer underneath it, and it was obvious that makes this face way too wide. So I put a 1/2-inch piece. This is it's a piece of pallet, like a slat from something. I don't actually know where we got it, but it's about a 1/2 inch thick. So I slid it just barely under the edge to jack up the log about a 1/2 inch. So you got about a 1/2 inch offset. The other thing I did is on the opposite side, I dropped the blade down to give me about a 1/2 inch lip on what would be the top side of the siding. And that's going to end up giving, I think, our bottom edge 3/4 to an inch, somewhere in there, I think is how it's going to net out. So we'll cut this first piece and we'll see what happens. All right, so you can see that the two pieces have a taper. The bottom edge is about the same, and we've got about a 1/2 inch reveal on each top side. I didn't get crazy, so I don't have a nice crisp corner right here because, you know, it's just kind of pretending to do this. So, and the same thing on this side, I didn't have this log, I didn't cut it aggressive to make sure it had a square end, but the other end looks pretty good. So now I'm going to stack these guys on top of each other and kind of see what it would look like if you were to install this as siding and see if we've got it right. So there you have it. That's our siding, our lap siding if you were going to make it. It's this is kind of what it would look like if it was installed on the wall. So you get the idea here. Adjustments I might make, and I might play around with this a little bit, is to shrink this face a little bit, see if I can get this down another maybe 1/4 inch so it's not so wide. I think this bottom edge is pretty wide, and that would reduce this size here because I think you could drive a nail about a 1/2 inch down, and so I'd be less worried about that width there. But I think it's a success. I think it would work. It's time consuming because every time you make a cut you have to undo the log clamps and change the degree and everything. But if you were doing a small building or a little utility shed or something like that, I think you could do it. If you're going to do a few thousand square feet, you might consider just buying the attachment that goes on the mill. There's a lot of people have that installed. I know Sawing with Sandy has that, and I think he has a video on it where he's installed it and used it. So if you're kind of curious how that works, go check him out. If you're looking to not put that unit on there and just doing a small amount, I think you could just jack up one corner of the can and saw away. So I cut a few more pieces of siding. I like this one probably the best. It's got a little bit of a start here. I went a little thin on this one. You can see it tapers down to almost nothing. I think it's almost an 1/8 or so. This one's a little more like a 1/4. This is a little bit more like 3/4 of an inch. So it goes from a little bit heavy, a heavy 1/4 to a heavy 3/4. I liked this piece. I thought it was a good setting. So I can kind of mirror that, I think. If I ever was going to do it again, you know, I should be able to lift one side of it and then drop the blade and reproduce those. This guy a little bit too thin. Then I just milled off the rest of that log. It was kind of an interesting log. That coloring, if you don't know, that coloring is from sap. And there was a lot in this. That's what that, it is tacky. You could touch it and it's tacky. So that's what that is. It really got the blade pretty tacky. I turned up the soapy water a little bit, still wasn't really enough. There's just a lot of sap in this one. Then, of course, luckily that blade was about done, and then I nicked one of the log stops. That's how close I hit it by. I looked, sighted it, I thought I was gonna clear it. I did not clear it. I thought while I'm at it, I'll show you another trick that I started to do. I just started doing this recently. I used the sawmill head because I have the scale, because I have a scale here with all of our numbers on it. I started using the sawmill head, I'll show you that, to kind of like index the log. Now I've leveled the pith on this one, that center part, and so I'll touch it to the top like that, and then I'll read the scale and I'll figure out where that's at. So that one is about at 9.5. So I can make a first pass at maybe 9, and then I'll make a pass at 8. And I do that because that creates my sticker wood. So that first pass at 9 isn't going to leave much, but the next pass at 10 gives me a little bit of wood out of that, and then I can start creating some sticker wood. Alrighty, got it stickered and stacked. The stuff that I milled tonight. It actually starts right about in here. So this guy, all these guys coming up. What ended up in the end, I had, this is about 1.5 inch piece. It's got some soft corners. I didn't figure to make a 1/2 inch and 1 piece out of it, so it's 1.5 inches. And this top guy is about a 5 by 5, and it just had a lot of soft wood around the outside. I didn't get a lot of great pieces out of it, not wide pieces anyways. You can see some of the cutoffs right here. This is as I was just sort of taken away. This side looks pretty good, but if you look at this side, it's got a lot of holes, and you'll see right on this edge out here, it's really soft. So it's not great for building a whole lot, these kinds of things. You know, I can cut off what's still pretty good. You can find some good spots in there and use it for furring or something like that, but just doesn't. I end up cutting most of it off, just trying to square it. I set it aside and I'll use it for whatever. So I put this here temporarily and I really like how it's working out. I just took a piece of aluminum flashing and I covered over those holes. There's still really big holes underneath. You can see kind of where my fingers are going. All this is still open. It pretty much just throws the dust here and it drops down. I really like the way that's working out. Some people might not like these piles, but if you don't have that, it'll fling it a long way. So I like just getting it in the pile here. I take a big shovel. It's kind of like a demolition shovel or snow shovel, something like that. And I use that to throw it in a trash can or something like that, and then I'll go spread it somewhere. So everybody has their methods for stacking, and this is something I did recently, and I feel like it's turning out pretty well. I try to get the logs in lengths of 10'3". 10'6" is the max I can mill. 10'3" tends to be easier to mill than a 10'6". These are about 8'3" to 8'6", somewhere in there, but I try to keep them that distance. And then these are 6 foot somethings, 6'8", 6'3", somewhere in there. So I have the 3 separate rows, and I think what that's really allowed me to do is just take these ratchet straps off, add more lumber to that stack. So I know that everything in here is 8 inches long, or 8 feet long rather, and it's anywhere from 6 to 8 inches wide. But the best way I've found to keep these guys from going every which direction as it warps is actually the straps. I don't really use the banding anymore. I was trying that out. It didn't seem to do it. It actually stretches the bands and the plastic, and then where it warps the other direction, it makes as it shrinks, the bands end up being like loose. They'll have slack in them. So just get you some ratchet straps like this. That way, as it dries out or as the lumber shrinks, you just put another click on it, and you can put a lot of force on it. It does a great job. So far, it seems to have done a great job of holding all that wood from warping and bowing. We'll see in a couple of months how it did. That's it for tonight. I'm hungry. Mosquitoes are getting bad, so I'm going to call it a night. I'll see you guys next time.